Part 110. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1091. Chapter 1091 Who is my daddy for? Ye Man saw Tanyuj's appearance and almost agreed to let him in, but thinking about little Mickey, he finally gritted his teeth and became a bad guy. I don't want others to know about my relationship with you. Isn't it because of the text message I sent you that you came here this time? Our relationship has become bad partners again, can't you leave too? I still have something to do with you. I don't have time to entertain you all the time. The more Tianyuman said, the darker Tanyuj's eyes became. Tianyuman also tried hard to adjust what she said, but the mood of the man opposite him became worse and worse. Mr. Tang, I don't want to draw a clear line with you, I just want to keep a certain distance from you. Do you understand what I mean? I understand. Tanyuj glanced at Tianyuman. I'm going back to China now. Tanyuj turned and left without hesitation. He has been too clingy to her during this period. Is she disgusted? Or something else? He couldn't guess what she was thinking. But the meaning of what she said was very clear. She wanted to maintain a certain degree of intensity with him. Looking back on the previous period, he had indeed become radical and wanted to return to his previous life. Regardless of whether she wanted it or not, he just wanted to be by her side and watch. She talks to her. But they forgot that their current status was very embarrassing. The embarrassing status of ex-husband and wife often caused them to be looked at in a strange way by others when they got along. Chao Xiaofeng, Qian Xian'er, and others looked at them. It wasn't that he didn't see it, but he pretended not to see it. Just because he doesn't care doesn't mean she doesn't care, she must not like it. It will definitely take some time to regain her feelings. The pain of losing a child is probably also a hurdle in her heart, and the care of friends and relatives is also a burden. Having experienced a failed marriage, it is so easy to get remarried, so she must have a lot of worries in her heart. There is indeed a lot missing between them. Even if they rely on to maintain it now, it will not last long. Tanyuj left with random thoughts. His smart head had already thought about a lot of things at this moment, but he didn't know that Tianyuman did this just because she didn't want him to be around all the time and discovered the existence of little Mickey early. Her idea was actually very simple. Without him it's so complicated to think about. As for what her relatives think of them, she actually doesn't care at all. Tanyuj turned around and left, saying to return home. Tianyuman immediately opened the door and ran for a while, but did not catch up. He said he left in frustration. Wasn't it her own fault? What's the point of catching up? But why could she feel his sadness when she looked at his leaving figure? Why is he like this? What was he thinking about? She even had the illusion that he was afraid that the relationship between them would become alienated. She even had the illusion that he had feelings for her, not the feeling of family affection that she had thought in the past, but love. Ouch, I'm so annoyed. Tianyuman ruffled her hair in distress. Could her relationship with Tanyuj be more complicated? You shouldn't have continued the relationship as bad partners in the first place. Friends are just friends, and boyfriend and girlfriend are boyfriend and girlfriend. You still have to have a bad partner relationship. Don't you think the relationship between them is not awkward enough? And she pretended that they were in love in the name of her bad partner, which was too foul. After Tanyuj left, Tianyuman took little Mickey back to live with him. This time Tanyuj didn't come back to pester Tianyuman after leaving. Chi's father came the next day on the pretext of coming to see little Mickey. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1092. Chapter 1092 Who is my daddy 5. After Tanyuj left, Tianyuman took little Mickey back to live with him. This time Tanyuj didn't come back to pester Tianyuman after leaving. Chi's father came the next day. The excuse was to see little Mickey, but actually he wanted to spend more time with Jian Xian'er. The arrival of Dad Qi brought a third male to the family, and Xian Yuanxun also stayed here because of Jian Xian'er. Jian Yuman's house used to be sparsely populated, but now there are many more people. Jian Yuman goes to work and off work every day to play with her son and get along with her parents. A happy family life with her father, mother, brother, and son was what she had longed for all these years. Unexpectedly, after 8 years, she would be able to feel the warmth of family again. But her mind was still a little dazed, and she always felt that something was missing. Then one day, she saw little Mickey watching the couple next door taking Katie out to play, and then she realized that something was missing. She lost a husband, and little Mickey lost a father. Tanyuj didn't appear again for a whole month. As time passed, she had the illusion that he would never come again. It even occurred to her that if Tanyuj appeared again, she would not hide her son's consciousness. Finally, my feelings for Tanyuj returned to calmness, but because they met again, they became passionate again. During the day, she drove the car no differently than usual, but at night, holding her son in her arms, she would miss Tanyuj deeply. Well, let her continue to fall. Falling into the love network created by Tanyuj, unable to escape, or even unwilling to escape. At Paris International Airport, a familiar scene appeared again, only this time there were 2 more family members. Jian Yuman held her son in her arms, and in front of her were her parents, who came to see him off. After this month of getting along, the relationship between Qi's father and Jian's mother has become much better. At first, Jian's mother was resistant to seeing Qi's father, because he was regarded as a pervert at first, but later she slowly accepted that it was Qi's father who was in the middle. It took a lot of effort to ease the relationship a lot. The only fly in the ointment is that during this period, Xian Kaiping received a report from the informant Xian Yuanxun that Qi Zhan was here, and he also flew over to stay for a few days. As a result, the atmosphere at Jian Yuman's house became very awkward for a while, and he saw 2 handsome uncles. Jian Xian'er is jealous. The juniors hid, Jian Yuman went out to play with her son, and Xian Yuanxun took Xiao Xiaofeng to attend pregnancy classes. During this time, Xian Yuanxun couldn't bear Xiao Xiaofeng to go alone, so he pretended to be the father of the child. Accompanied several times. This month seems to have been peaceful, but a lot of things have happened. Manman, remember to report to us that you are safe when you get there. Jian's mother gently told Jian Yuman what to pay attention to while on a business trip. Okay. Mommy, leave early and come back early. Little Mickey lay in his mother's arms, reluctant to leave. Yes, Mom will be back soon. Just listen to your grandpa and grandma. Little Mickey nodded, his eyes rolling. Something was obviously fishy, but Jian Yuman, who was immersed in parting at the moment, didn't notice anything was wrong with his son. Farewell to her family, Jian Yuman boarded a plane to the imperial capital of her motherland. This time she was going to the imperial capital with Minister Jordan on a business trip. What Jian Yuman didn't know was that not long after Jian Yuman left, Xiao Xiaofeng showed up at the airport and said she couldn't come to see her off. She was holding little Mickey in her arms. When the security check was about to stop, she took little Mickey with her. Got on the plane to the imperial capital. Ha ha ha. The next story takes place in the imperial capital, and many key characters are about to appear. The awkward relationship between our sugar baby and Xiao Manman is finally about to be reformed. Moi. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1093. Chapter 1093. Your son? 1. Farewell to her family, Jian Yuman boarded a plane to the imperial capital of her motherland. This time she was going to the imperial capital with Minister Jordan on a business trip. This business trip is not short, and she is reluctant to be separated from her son, but who asked her to work as a translator. Her job requires her to fly around the world. There will be many opportunities to fly to various countries in the future. To put it nicely, it is a public trip. When she got on the plane, what Jian Yuman didn't know was that not long after she left, Chow Xiaofeng showed up at the airport, saying she couldn't come to see her off. She was holding little Mickey in her arms, and when she was about to stop the security check, she took him with her. Together with little Mickey, he stepped on the plane to the imperial capital. "Aunt Xiaofeng, is this really okay for us?" Little Mickey had a sullen face for a while, touching his chin with his finger and pondering whether their behavior this time was a wise one. "You kid, why do you regret it?" Chow Xiaofeng stretched out her finger and flicked the little guy's forehead. "No, it's just that I'm afraid mommy will be angry later." He was only worried about this, and he wasn't worried about anything else. "It's okay, I'm just going to visit the imperial capital. I haven't returned to China for many years. I miss the food there, especially the mutton boiled meat. Thinking about it makes me drool." Chow Xiaofeng has been nostalgic for the food of her motherland for a long time, but every time no chance to go back. A few days ago, little Mickey suddenly ran into the room and asked Chow Xiaofeng if she wanted to go to the imperial capital with him. Chow Xiaofeng immediately agreed, and was even more shocked as to why the little guy wanted to go to China. After asking several times, he still didn't get an answer. Chow Xiaofeng didn't care so much. With her here, could the little guy still lose it? "I want to eat candied haws on a stick," little Mickey said seriously. The candied haws on a stick he ate abroad was not authentic at all. His grandfather brought him candied haws on a stick to eat, and he fell in love with the secret candied haws on a stick since then. This return to China is the first time for little Mickey to go to the motherland. He has been abroad since he was born. Mommy has never taken him back to the country. This time, he kidnapped Aunt Xiaofeng and asked her to take him there. Only this little guy knows the real reason. One large and one small, including the baby in Chow Xiaofeng's belly, there were 3 people flying to the imperial capital together. They specially watched Jian Yuman enter the plane in the dark, and then the 2 of them sneaked in. Fortunately, they were not in the same place. Since Jian Yuman was on a business trip, he flew in business class, while the 2 of them flew in first class. There was a gap between the 2 places. There was no fear that Jian Yuman would find out that they were flying together on the same plane. Go to the imperial capital. On the plane, Jian Yuman just took out a classic book to read. The person sitting next to Jian Yuman was someone she hated. "Is the little boy in your arms just now your son?" old Tina asked seemingly casually, but it was actually gossip. She saw Jian Yuman holding little Mickey from a distance, and she was very curious about the child in her arms. Who was it? He even got close enough to eavesdrop, but he heard with his own ears that little guy called Jian Yuman mommy. Yet Jian Yuman responded lightly. "I didn't expect that you even have a son. Judging from his age, could he be your son with Mr. Tang?" Tina continued to gossip. Who in the entire Ministry of Foreign Affairs doesn't know that Jian Yuman's ex-husband is Mr. Tang of the Dihao Group, and now he is being pursued by the son of the richest man, so he is very popular. Tina's jealousy towards Jian Yuman has reached the level of a torrential river. "You guys should beat the out of your majesty. Your majesty's laziness is hopeless. Please help me." End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1094. Chapter 1094. Your son? 2. Tina's jealousy towards Jian Yuman has reached the level of a torrential river. I just can't understand why all the outstanding men in the world seem to be interested in her even though she is pretty and young. She has obviously had a failed marriage, but there are still many outstanding men who admire her. Why do so many outstanding men like her? Have a good appearance. Now that I know that she has given birth, I feel even more uneasy. Qian Yuman continued to read, turning her head a little coldly and arrogantly, looking at Tina, who was at odds with her. This doesn't seem to be any of your business. I'm just asking out of love for my colleagues. Qian Yuman sneered, not believing that this was her idea. It was just a pain in the for her to be idle. Why do colleagues love her? Do they have a good relationship? She has not forgotten the things that Tina often caused trouble for her before. I'm sorry, that's my private matter. Qian Yuman deliberately showed her face to Tina. She also stood up and walked towards Dick and asked to exchange places with him. Dick was naturally happy to exchange seats with Qian Yuman. Qian Yuman's actions made Tina very unhappy, and she was so unhappy that she wanted to rush over and give Qian Yuman a few slaps. But Tina can't do anything with Qian Yuman. Qian Yuman's work efficiency is very high. After these 3 months of work performance, she has won unanimous praise from everyone and has become an official diplomat of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Country F. In addition, Tang Yuge and Kenny made such a fuss last time, and now the entire Ministry of Foreign Affairs knows that Qian Yuman has a powerful identity and background. In addition, when I vented my anger on Chao Xiaofeng last time, there happened to be a colleague from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the wedding, and I happened to know Qian Yuman, so everyone knew that Qian Yuman was well connected and had a strong family background, and was a typical she's white, rich, and beautiful, and she's so rich that she's dripping with oil. Even if Qian Yuman's ability to do things is poor, just because she knows so many important people, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will keep her here. After getting off the plane, Chao Xiaofeng and little Mickey rushed out first. They rushed out of the cabin before Qian Yuman came out. They took their carry-on luggage and flew out. Qian Yuman didn't notice them and followed them. From beginning to end, Qian Yuman didn't notice that her son had come to the imperial capital with his best friend. It was also the first time for Qian Yuman to come to the imperial city. She originally wanted to go to the Great Wall first, but after hearing that it would take 4 hours to go back and forth, she finally gave up and took a good rest in the hotel, waiting for work to start. The working time in the imperial capital was not as long as the last time in London, only about 20 days. This business trip was neither long nor short. Today, Qian Yuman will accompany Minister Jordan to the Jiangsu Hall of the Great Hall of the People to meet with the Prime Minister of his country. As a native of Country Z, he is naturally very fluent in Chinese, so he will go with Qian Yuman this time. Qian Yuman was so excited that she almost couldn't sleep at night when she knew she was going to meet Prime Minister Z. Although she had met many important people, she had never met the Prime Minister of her country. In the past, Qian Yuman was a big shot that Qian Yuman couldn't help wanting. Let alone knowing him, he didn't even have a chance to meet him. It was his first time to visit the imperial capital, and it was also his first time to visit the Great Hall of the People. For Qian Yuman, it was nothing more than a tourist attraction. When she followed Minister Jordan into the Great Hall and looked at the surrounding environment, she was still very calm on the surface. When she saw the Prime Minister, she was calm on the surface, but she was not calm at all on the inside. At this time, she saw a familiar figure. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1095. Chapter 1095. Mr. Tang is everywhere. 1. When she followed Minister Jordan into the Great Hall and looked at the surrounding environment, she was still very calm on the surface. When she met the leader, she was calm on the surface, but she was not calm at all on the inside. At this time, she saw a familiar figure. A person whom I had not seen for at least 3 years. I never expected to see him in such a solemn place, the Great Hall of the People. But he was wearing a military uniform and following Leader Su. We haven't seen him for many years, but he still has a cold face, an upright look, and a neater cut of hair. He looks even more handsome after wearing a military uniform. Why is he here? The person Jianyuman saw was Su Warong, a senior she had fallen in love with. They had not seen each other for 3 years, and they did not expect to meet again on such a solemn occasion. He stood behind the leader, and she stood behind Minister Jordan as the translator. Su Warong's eyes spotted her earlier than Jianyuman. He saw Jianyuman almost as soon as she appeared in the great hall of the people. Of course, he had known about Jianyuman's meeting with the leader today half a month ago, and he was even more looking forward to the time when the two of them would meet again. After seeing her for many years, she became more beautiful, more confident, and more energetic. It was obviously still her, and her facial features had not changed at all, but he could tell that she had become more beautiful and attracted more of his attention. Both sides noticed each other's presence. Jianyuman just nodded and smiled faintly at Su Warong. This occasion was not suitable for greeting each other after a long absence. They were all supporting actors in this meeting, and they must not take over the spotlight. Leader Su and Minister Jordan met and shook hands with each other to introduce each other. Only then did Jianyuman realize why Su Warong appeared here. She had always known that Su Warong was an Interpol officer, but she did not know that he had resigned from Interpol 3 years ago and joined the national military. In 3 years, he had climbed to a very high position. This time, I accompanied Leader Su to come forward. After Minister Jordan and the others expressed illusory warmth, Jianyuman, you also knew Su Warong's current identity, Major General of the Ministry of National Defense in the capital. This time, I accompanied Leader Su to meet with Jordan, the Minister of Economic Affairs of Country F, to discuss together economic exchanges and cooperation between the two countries. When Jianyuman found out Su Warong's identity, she was almost shocked. Major General, this is a very high official position. When he became such a big shot, she didn't know at all. There are still many things that Jianyuman doesn't know. Just because this occasion is not about greeting 11 Han, Jianyuman has any doubts in his stomach. However, he is still full of curiosity about this big man and wants to know the past 3 years. How did he get to his current status? When Jianyuman followed Minister Jordan to the Jiangsu Hall, he saw a person already sitting in the Jiangsu Hall. This person had a lazy posture and bright eyes. When he saw several people coming in from the door, he stood up from his position and ran over quickly. Leader Su, Minister Jordan, you're here, I've been waiting for a long time. Tang Yuj spoke seriously and casually, as if he was meeting guests at home, and Jianyuman often rolled his eyes at him. Jianyuman was really shocked, because she didn't know that Tang Yuj was here and spoke in such an inappropriate manner. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1096. Chapter 1096. Mr. Tang is everywhere too. Leader Su, Minister Jordan, you're here, I've been waiting for a long time. Tang Yuj spoke seriously and casually, as if he was meeting guests at home, and Jianyuman often rolled his eyes at him. Jianyuman was really shocked, because she didn't know that Tang Yuj was here and spoke in such an inappropriate manner. Why is he here? These words flew through his mind quickly, but Jianyuman was still shocked and remained calm even in the big scene. She had met Su Warong before and had become a major general. She could restrain her emotions and pretend that they didn't know each other. But when Tang Yuj appeared, the corner of her mouth still twitched slightly, but what she was thinking was, why is it everywhere? Tang Yuj is here? Why is he so haunted? And why is he here? When Tang Yuj's eyes were on Jianyuman, he looked at her and walked over with a smile. He had the intention of saying hello to Jianyuman, but Jianyuman glared at her. If he dared to come forward and say a word, just beat him to death. Jianyuman was really afraid that Tang Yuj would ignore her and come over to greet her for a while, and then treat Mr. Su and Minister Jordan as nothing, and make her, a little translator, a target of public criticism. Then she would be in mourning. Under Qian Yuman's angry glare, Tang Yuj pouted and looked away helplessly, still looking very rude. "Mr. Tang, I've kept you waiting for a long time," Mr. Su greeted with a smile. He didn't notice anything strange about Tang Yuj just now. He had heard that Tang Yuj had arrived before. He arrived later, and before he had time to see him, Minister Jordan came and went first. Meeting Minister Jordan, fortunately Mr. Tang didn't really care. The group of people just sat down, and there was another round of greetings. Qian Yuman sat next to Minister Jordan and helped Minister Jordan translate. The content of the chat was nothing more than the economic development between the two countries, and Tang Yuj, who has huge businesses around the world, was an important figure in facilitating this conversation. Tang Yuj has a big cooperation project that requires the leaders of the two countries to work together. Qian Yuman listened and translated. At the same time, she felt Qian Yuman's eyes falling on her several times, and she couldn't ignore them even if she wanted to. Fortunately, she was someone who had seen big scenes, so she didn't make too much of a show. She just did her job calmly and performed her duties as a translator well. Su Warong was always a quiet person. He stood next to Mr. Su with a cold face. Qian Yuman was very curious. Why did he, a major general of the Ministry of National Defense, appear at this careful symposium? Qian Yuman's eyes fell on Su Warong several times. Tang Yuj, who had been paying attention to Qian Yuman, saw this. Suddenly, the jealousy was overturned, which made the old man's face become ugly, causing Mr. Su and Minister Qian to have a look on their faces. It's puzzling. Could it be that Tang Yuj agrees with anything in the content of their chat just now? Everything is easy to discuss and they just need to communicate slowly. But Tang Yuj only communicated with a smile and did not raise any objections to some of their requests, which made the two ministers even more confused. Mr. Su was most baffled, wondering why he had such a black face. Minister Jordan understood a little bit, and it must have something to do with his accompanying translator. "Everybody, go to sleep. Your Majesty went to watch a drama and will write more later. Don't wait any longer." Moi. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1097. Chapter 1097. Goodbye Old Lover 1. Minister Jordan knew Tang Yuj's feelings for Qian Yuman and how important Qian Yuman was to him. Even this conversation and the cooperation between the two countries were successfully built through his bridge. Without Tang Yuj to bridge the gap, I was afraid that it's not that easy to expand. He was very clear about Tang Yuj's purpose. Su Warong behaved very calmly, unmoved by Qian Yuman's gaze, and not even raising his eyelids by Tang Yuj's hostile gaze. After more than an hour of conversation, the three parties have reached some basic conditions, and today's meeting presentation has come to an end. Next, Prime Minister Su will host them for dinner, and has already prepared a nice state banquet to receive Minister Jordan, who has come from afar, and our perverted comrade Tang Yuj. While Minister Jordan was preparing for the meal, Tina took Qian Yuman's place and continued to translate for Minister Jordan. She took time to go to the toilet. After Qian Yuman left the banquet hall, a figure also walked out. When Qian Yuman came out of the toilet, the man was waiting for Qian Yuman at the door of the toilet. Manor Su Warong's expression was as expressionless as ever, but the voice that called out Manor was obviously a little gentler. This simple call was the first call in the past 3 years. It was the first time we met after we parted ways in S City. Senior Qian Yuman shouted with a bright smile when she saw Su Warong. The initial liking for Su Warong has long since disappeared, and all I have for him is the friendship between seniors and schoolmates. When they meet each other after many years, she won't feel embarrassed, and she will feel slightly excited, just like meeting an old acquaintance, without any other complicated emotions in it. Long time no see. The faint sentence long time no see made Su Warong's heart tremble, and there was a hint of tenderness in his cold eyes. Qian Yuman grinned brightly, with the corners of her mouth curved, her hands folded across her chest, her body tilted back, and she looked Su Warong up and down. Senior Huarong, your clothes look like the military uniform of a major general. When did you become not only your Interpol police officer, but also a major general, and your position is not low after 3 years of not seeing each other? Su Warong has changed the most, and his status has also changed a lot. I graduated from a military academy and joined the army for a few years. It was only later that I went abroad for further studies and wanted to be an Interpol police officer, so I left the army. My father has always wanted me to come back, and he re-enlisted as a soldier 3 years ago. Qian Yuman opened her mouth slightly. At this moment, she really felt that she knew too little about the senior. Su Warong's simple introduction just now has already revealed a lot of information. He came from a military family and was born in the military, and his father's status was not simple. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for Su Warong to reach his current position in 3 years just relying on Su Warong's personal ability. Judging from his appearance, he will climb to a higher position in the future, and his future is limitless. Senior, why did you show up today? You seem to have never spoken during today's meeting. Qian Yuman asked what was most confusing in her heart, because in today's meeting, except for introducing his identity, he said a few words, but nothing else happened after that. There was silence without a word being said. Regardless of whether he was a taciturn person or not, he shouldn't be so quiet here and now. It was a bit strange for a soldier to appear at a meeting on economic development, not to mention he didn't speak. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1098. Chapter 1098. Goodbye Old Lover 2. It was a bit strange for a soldier to appear at a meeting on economic development, not to mention he didn't speak. You will come today. Su Warong looked at her gently with eyes, and the corners of his mouth curved slightly. A simple sentence has made it clear. The purpose of his visit does not need to be explained at all. Qian Yuman understands it. Qian Yuman smiled and looked away, not looking into Su Warong's eyes. Although his emotions were not as warm as other people's feelings for her, she still felt his emotions. Even after 3 years, even if they hadn't seen each other for 3 years, his feelings for her never weakened one bit. On the contrary, because the precipitation of time becomes more solid and turns into gentle spring water, which naturally goes deep into the heart. Well, sometimes people are too charming, which is also a kind of trouble. Qian Yuman couldn't help but think narcissistically. She and her senior had become inseparable because of his sudden departure. If he had not left suddenly, she would not have met Tang Yuj, and she would even be with him later and become her final partner. It's just that fate always plays tricks on people, causing many unexpected things to happen. She and her senior had just missed each other. She was thinking about someone else at the moment, but he still only had her. She was the only one who changed, but he was still waiting where he was. Qian Yuman smiled and walked with Su Warong to the hall where the state banquet was held. The two of them were silent, much like how they got along in college. Qian Yuman suddenly thought of something and turned to look at Su Warong. You said I would come back today, so you came, but you are not from the Ministry of Economic Affairs. How could you be approved to participate? After being silent for a while, Qian Yuman suddenly remembered this important message. Su Warong raised his eyebrows slightly and still said in a somewhat emotionless tone. He's my dad. Emma. There was a clang at Qian Yuman's feet, and she almost lost her balance. If Su Warong hadn't grabbed her arm, she might have fallen out and embarrassed herself. Qian Yuman was shocked by Su Warong's answer. She never expected it. He is actually Su Warong's biological father. No wonder his father insisted that Su Warong return to China and embark on a political career. With his father paving the way in front of him, it's no wonder that everything goes smoothly for him. However, Su Warong was not willing at all at first. He even quarreled with his father and almost broke away from the father-son relationship. Tisk tisk tisk. Fortune plays tricks on people. It turns out that the senior is a second-generation official. Compared with the seniors, I am extremely weak next time. Surprised, Su Warong looked at Jian Yuman's lively expression, his eyes became gentler again. Jian Yuman nodded heavily, smiling a little bit, showing 2 rows of neat white teeth, and raised his eyebrows. I'm not just surprised, I'm scared to death. But senior, if you have to protect me from now on, I will hug your thigh shamelessly. You must not break the law. If you break the law, I will deal with it impartially and will never bend the law for personal gain. Su Warong spoke seriously and stated his position seriously. How is it possible? I am a good citizen and will not do bad things. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1099. Chapter 1099 Provocation from a Love Rival 1. She was just joking. She didn't expect that the senior she had not seen for so many years was not a good person at all. This kind of righteous and awe-inspiring temperament in her body has become stronger after joining the army in the past few years. Still cold and not very talkative. Hey! What are you two doing? At this moment, an unhappy male voice sounded, and then a figure swept over like the wind, walked up to them, raised his hand and patted the skin where the two of them were touching. Open. Just now, Jian Yuman almost fell down. Su Warong reached out to hold her up, but did not let go of Jian Yuman's hand. Therefore, in the eyes of Tang Yuj, who had just come over, the two people's actions were very intimate, which instantly overturned the jealousy. Su Warong narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Tang Yuj displeased. What are you doing? Staring at me? I won't do the same thing. Tang Yuj sneered, and glared back at Su Warong, unwilling to admit defeat. They were comparing their momentum, right? Tang Yuj is not usually vicious, but when he becomes fierce, even he will be scared. Subsequently, Jian Yuman looked at the two grown men with a headache, as if they were childish ghosts, glaring at each other, refusing to let anyone go. What are you doing? Are you two comparing each other with bigger eyes? If that's the case, Mr. Tang will win. Su Warong's eyes are not big, and his facial features are more like those of Korean celebrities. His eyes are still single eyelids, compared with Tang Yuj's phoenix eyes. When I get up, it's quite obvious when I'm small. Who is comparing the size of their eyes with him? Tang Yuj looked unhappy, staring at Jian Yuman's arm, feeling jealous about the fact that the two of them were holding each other together just now. Jian Yuman looked down at her arms, and then said with a smile. You couldn't have misunderstood something, right? Misunderstanding? What could I have misunderstood? Tang Yuj was very stubborn. He clearly cared about it, but he still shook his head arrogantly. I just heard that my senior's father was Premier Su. I was so surprised that I almost fell down. It was my senior who helped me in time. Oh. Really? Tang Yuj's heart felt a little better, and he looked at her arrogantly from the corner of his eye, pretending not to care. He kept calling him senior, senior, but after all, he was still the senior of both of them, and they both went to the same school. In any case, Mr. Tang was unhappy in various ways, but he didn't show it, but he wanted Jian Yuman to see it. Jian Yuman didn't notice her lack of emotional intelligence, but that doesn't mean Su Warong didn't notice it. After experiencing so many official struggles in the past few years, is this little look good enough? So what if it's fake? My fair lady, A gentleman is so bold. The abrupt and taciturn Senior Su suddenly spoke. He was still worried that things were not noisy enough, and he actually said such misunderstood words. What do you mean? Tanyuj was furious in an instant, saying that this kid is up to something. Helping his woman not to fall? It's just an excuse. Just pay, and your hand just stayed there for at least 20 seconds. Su Warong gave Tanyuj a cold look, which literally means, can't you hear it? Tanyuj was about to explode when he saw Su Warong's provocative eyes, but he still endured it. Whoever got angry first would lose first. He tried hard to suppress the idea of hitting Su Warong. Su Warong, why are you chasing my Chienur? Tanyuj glared at him dissatisfied. From your family? Tanyuj, you have divorced Manur, and I have also terminated the engagement. You are free and qualified to pursue her. Concubines, stop clamoring for getting back together. If they get back together, how can our many men pursue Xiao Manman? Mistress in marriage? No, no, the male mistresses, didn't do anything before because I didn't want to destroy Xiao Manman's family. I finally waited until she was single. If I didn't make more noise, I would let the sugar baby know how popular my wife is. How can I cherish her in the future? End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1100. Chapter 1100 Provocation from a Love Rival to. From your family? Tanyuj, you have divorced Manur. I have also broken off the engagement. I am free and qualified to pursue her. Su Warong's usual indifferent expression was shocking, and he would never say it in the past. The level of boredom has reached its peak. He and Qian Yuman had a crush on each other for 2 years, and they didn't even show that they liked Qian Yuman. They even missed it because they didn't express their feelings for 2 years. Su Warong suddenly said that he wanted to pursue Qian Yuman. Qian Yuman was frightened by his own saliva and coughed violently. The cough kept coming, and her old man's face was as red as a monkey's butt. Tanyuj's eyes almost popped out of his head. He didn't expect this boring to actually say that he wanted to pursue Qian Yuman. He said that Su Warong's appearance today was very strange. It turned out that he had a purpose, just to meet his wife again. Waiting for an opportunity to pursue her. Humph. Tanyuj snorted coldly, glared at the other party, and told Su Warong with his eyes. Tanyuj, you are dreaming, and pursuing her is in vain. She will be my woman for the rest of your life. Su Warong glared back in disbelief, and the meaning expressed in his eyes was very clear. Su Warong, your woman? That was just the past, and it was just the past when the two of them talked about it. They didn't have much advantage, let alone old love. They were also a man and woman who had feelings for each other. Tanyuj, what? Not happy? Come and have a fight? Su Warong, you can't beat me. Seeing that the smoke between the two is getting thicker and thicker, there is a real rhythm of fighting, making it difficult for Qian Yuman to behave in the middle. Are you preparing to fight? Qian Yuman asked with a bright smile. What do you think? The two men said in unison, their tone was really rhythmic. Qian Yuman's eyes widened, and suddenly her smile became very strange, and she glanced at the two men. Oh. You're welcome, I'll leave first. Qian Yuman smiled very immodestly, and ran away, and ran very fast, fearing that if she looked even a step, they would implicate her in the fight. Qianur. Manur. The two men shouted in unison, and then the sound rang out. Qian Yuman had already disappeared on her high heels, not even leaving a trace of her back to them. It had nothing to do with her posture, which made the two men look at each other with helpless eyes at the same time. And asked the other party at the same time, why do you fall in love with such a woman? After Qian Yuman ran away quickly, she sat back at the state banquet elegantly. She thought of the scene of being sandwiched between two beautiful men just now, and a smile appeared on her lips as she thought about it. How wonderful would it be if two beautiful men took off their clothes and then fought over themselves. If you can add her Kenny Appa. Wow. 3 handsome men served her together, one pinched her shoulders, one pinched her thighs, and then another, he, ha 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 ha. No, she can't think about it, she will get a nosebleed if she thinks about it again. At this moment, Jian Yuman's expression was a little weird, and she tried hard to maintain a serious expression and a faint smile, but the picture of a beautiful man in her mind was too beautiful, and it had been reduced to the level of a drinking pool and a forest of meat. Well, beauty is also a kind of sadness. Our bright, beautiful, and charming Queen Jian Yuman thinks so. The 2 grown men were still looking at each other. Without Jian Yuman's presence, the smell of gunpowder was much lighter. End of this chapter.